All right, we have reached our 100th slide.
Woo! The Eighth Amendment. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. And this is another one of those, well, that's really vague, and we're going to find about 15 ways of trying to argue about it. Amendments. Because what is excessive? What is cruel and unusual? Does the unusual have to be part of the cruel?
Yeah, so we talked about. I think we talked about this in our original thing about people cash bail and all this other stuff.
Yeah. Cash bail is worse on the poor than on the rich for obvious reasons. And the cash bail system has enormous problems with it. You know, John Oliver did a whole episode about it that goes into a lot more detail than I could. But it's increasingly seen to be a deeply problematic system. And what's excessive for me is a very small amount of money because I don't have money and am not allowed to have savings or property. So, unless my bail is about $1.50, I'm staying in jail. And because of the aforementioned problem with speedy trial, people can end up in jail for a very long time awaiting trial simply because the court system is overwhelmed. And they're in jail over a matter of a few $100s that they can't raise. But obviously they can't raise it if they can't get out of jail. And so they're sitting in jail, they lose their jobs, they lose apartment because they can't pay rent. It's a horrible system. But is it excessive bail? Well, maybe not. It depends on who's defining excessive. Likewise, fines. What's an excessive fine? For a company that is violating federal law, they can usually afford a lot more than the average citizen. You hear these fines, and it's like, oh, they were fined, $15,000 for such and such. It's like, yeah, but how much is that relative to their profits of that year? Versus if I were fined $15,000, it would take me decades to pay it off. So I get the intent, and I get why they didn't make it specific, but the word excessive is doing a lot of work. Oh, you caught it. The kitten has caught her stuffed pineapple on a string.
Cool. Now, bail is for you can get out. You can get out of jail before your trial. Before your trial is a thing, and fines is after the trial.
Right. Fines is what you pay when you're found guilty. Bail is, I believe, bail is held, and you get it back afterward.
As long as
I've never been on bail, so I'm not 100%.
Yeah, as long as you don't, leave the town, leave the jurisdiction.
Right, and you surrender bail if you're a fugitive. But I believe you do get it back. But that doesn't matter if you can't afford to raise the money.
If not, you wait in prison until your trial.
Yeah, you're going to wait in jail, and some of the jails are horribly overcrowded, and people spend ages there and then are found not guilty. So it's a problem. It is a serious problem.
That's it. That's even if you're granted bail in the first place.
Yeah, and there are some crimes that are no bail, and some people are not granted bail because they are considered a flight risk. And some people should have been considered a flight risk but weren't, and are now in France for the foreseeable future, despite having drugged and assaulted a 13-year-old. Because famous.
But and France doesn't have what's it called? Not jurisdiction.
Extradition?
Yeah.
Not if you're a French citizen.
Oh, and this guy was.
And this guy is a French citizen. He was hidden in France, actually, during the Holocaust. He's one of the few Jewish children to have survived the Holocaust in France. And he is still alive and still legally a fugitive from justice from California.
So kind of like like a Magneto situation.
Yeah, well, kind of.
The Holocaust survivor, but then they commit their own crimes.
Yes. Oh, yes. And I mean, the man has had a rough life. I don't want to say he hasn't. You know, his 8 months pregnant wife was killed by the Manson family, and being a Holocaust survivor, and one of his cousins was a Schindler Jew. One of the little kids from the Schindler Jews was the cousin of the man that I'm specifically thinking here, who is a fugitive from justice. So he's had a rough life, I grant you. But that does not excuse his actions, and he should have served prison time for drugging and assaulting a 13-year-old. It wasn't statutory, she said no. So yeah.
Is this the director?
Mm-hmm. This is a director.
Okay. You mentioned his wife was killed by the Manson family. The only thing I know of is that one director.
Yes. Interesting life, difficult life. Still think he should have served prison time. But he didn't because he was able to afford bail. And was not considered a flight risk despite being, a foreign citizen.
And a famous director that has lots of money.
And a famous director who has lots of money. The crime took place in Jack Nicholson's house.
Wow.
That's a minor detail there.
And that celebrity via celebrity.
Yeah. And the judge was afraid of coming across as being too harsh on him because he was a celebrity, and ended up being not harsh enough because he was a celebrity, and now he's been a fugitive from justice for decades. So yeah.
So we got the money for before, money for after, and then I guess torture, the third one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cruel and Unusual Punishment is another one of those ones that is not terribly well defined. And the current fight on that one is that the death penalty is cruel and unusual punishment. Which is one of many reasons the death penalty should be abolished. I am not a prison abolitionist. I think the system needs desperate reform, a complete overhaul. But I do think there needs to be a prison system. I do not agree with the death penalty. It is known how many innocent people are executed. It is heavily weighted against minority populations. And we know that pretty much every method of execution we use causes pain.
See, there's lethal injection, electric chair, firing squad, hanging, beheading either by axe, sword, or guillotine, crucifixion, stoning, burned by the stake burning.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of the other ones off the top of my head.
Now, obviously, with most of these in the United States. Oh, drawing and quartering.
Oh, that's execution. I thought that. Oh, I guess that would be execution.
Well, I mean, the whole point of drawing and quartering is that you're pulling the person apart. So, yeah.
I thought that would be more for information torture, not for actually killing.
Oh no! Quartering means cutting the body in 4 pieces. No, it's the old school punishment for treason. If you were lucky, they beheaded you first.
If you were royalty, they beheaded you. If you're
not necessarily.
Well,
I can tell you stories, but I'm not gonna. Because
I guess I figured that more peasants would be for drawing.
Yeah.
Because I read this book about beheadings and stuff, and it says nobility or royalty was beheaded by a sword or an axe, but the peasants were beheaded by something much harder to chop their head off, less clean.
Peasants were usually hanged.
Oh. Maybe not peasants. Maybe I'm thinking lower nobility. Maybe I'm thinking about lower nobility. The royalty was beheaded quickly.
Not necessarily. So if you were beheaded, that was a privilege of the nobility, and you were beheaded by axe in almost all cases. One of the most notable cases was, of course, Mary Queen of Scots, who was a very smart and very silly woman who believed that her cousin Elizabeth would help her retake her throne, and ended up on English soil and eventually was executed for treason against Queen Elizabeth I, which legally is a dicey thing because how could she commit treason with not being a subject? But it doesn't matter. Elizabeth I was considered to be squeamish by the standards of her time. She did not like having people executed that she knew or, had contact with. And so there wasn't a lot of use for a headsman in Elizabethan England. And it took a ridiculous number of strokes to cut off Mary's head, and he ended up kind of sawing with the axe to get the last little bit of skin. Like, it is a lot. And then he tried to hold up her head to show the crowd, and he dropped it because he didn't realize she was wearing a wig. The reason Anne Boleyn was executed with a sword was that it was fast.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking about now. Lady Queen Grey was beheaded.
Lady Jane Grey, yeah.
By one thing, but her husband was beheaded by something else because her husband wasn't nobility or was important as
well, he wasn't as important, but
my figure was one was beheaded by one thing, another was beheaded by another thing.
I don't think so, but
maybe I read it wrong. I remember reading something about that.
Let's see, his execution.
The book I reading it was wrong.
Yeah, he was killed by axe. Took one stroke.
Yeah.
Which, lucky him, because again, there are stories.
And what about her?
I'm looking that up right now. Wikipedia doesn't say.
Oh,
well, that's worthless.
Because I've sworn she got beheaded a different way than he did.
Yeah, nobody wants to tell me.
Oh.
Okay, one stroke. So they were both lucky, and it only took one. The guillotine was actually invented to be more kind because the guillotine wouldn't take multiple strokes. It's a weighted blade. It's sharp. It should only take one stroke.
And it was used on peasant and royalty alike.
It was in the French Revolution. It was called the National Razor.
Even used on the guy that invented it, I think.
Mm-hmm. No, he did not.
Oh.
No, it's a common
a rumor. Myth.
Yeah.
But it was used on the guy who started the revolution, and he was.
Oh yeah, Robespierre. Robespierre, yes. Now it wasn't the first of its kind. He didn't invent it. He opposed the death penalty.
But it was used until Star Wars.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Wikipedia does not say how he died. Well, that's tedious. Oh, at home of natural causes. There it is.
Ah.
Specifically a carbuncle.
Oh, I think we've gone off topic long enough, and I think everything we talk about this subject.
Well, I do want to talk briefly about the cruel and unusual punishment aspect. Because there's a case called Furman v. Georgia from 1972. William Henry Furman was sentenced to death for the murder of a woman who he shot while he was robbing her home. Well, attempting to rob her home. And he took it to the Supreme Court saying that he was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to execution because he was black. And the Supreme Court agreed with him.
And that's the reason that for a while no death penalties for a while.
Yeah, 72, the death penalty nationwide was abolished in an attempt to make it fair, which no.
And that's why Manson got out. Manson didn't
get out. Manson's sentence was commuted to life in prison.
That's why I was talking. That's what I meant.
Yeah, and he died in prison. Which, I'm okay with, because that was not a man who was going to be rehabilitated. If he was going to be rehabilitated, it needed to start when he was about 8. But one or two of the women from the family have shown that they deserve to be released and have been rehabilitated. And I think in their case it's purely punitive, and I think they've got a clear 8th Amendment case, given that the reason they're in prison is not because that's within the system, but because of the specific crimes that they were involved with. And I don't mean murder, I mean the specific murders they were involved with. All of those people are like about as old as my mom, and they are still in prison for crimes committed in 1969. So there's an 8th Amendment argument to be had there. But yeah, what counts as excessive and what counts as cruel and unusual are going to be the cases throughout U.S. history with the 8th Amendment.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that there's no cruel and unusual punishment for the Gillian courts system.
No. Punishments on the Court of Gillian are proportionate to the crime. The kids don't like them, but of course they don't. If they liked them, it wouldn't be a punishment.
And I'm guessing that there's no bail either.
There's no bail. No, there's natural consequences to your actions.
And I don't know about fines or not. The fine would be...
Fines are generally paid in the form of housework.
Okay.
Because that is a currency that is not coming from me. If they had to pay me in money, I would have to pay them and then they would pay me back, and that's it. No, we don't do that.
The circle of allowance.
Yes. So instead, it's okay, you have done X, you must do Y amount of housework to make up for it. And there's removal of privileges is a fairly common one. You know, you can't do such and such until you have done this other thing. You know, oh, you're in trouble. No, you don't get to have this amount of screen time today, what have you.